Hi again, everybody. It's Kevin Knessa coming to you from the newsroom of The Observer and TheObserver.com. And I am very happy to be joined today by Andrew Miller. Andrew is a resident of North Arlington, and I first got to know him when he wrote us some great letters to the editor. And now he is getting involved with the possible closure of the Kingsland train station in Lyndhurst. And when the New Jersey Transit folks had a meeting last week, he was there, he spoke, and he joins us today to talk about what New Jersey Transit may or may not do there. Andrew, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So you were one of the first to reach out to us after this all sort of became news that they might consider closing the Kingsland Station. Why are you so concerned about this station potentially closing with one just a couple of blocks away?
Because it's still enough people use it to keep it necessary. I mean, because of congestion and population density, it's why both stations use for of it, like maybe a few years ago when they already knew they were going to build a new Lyndhurst train station. And it was like a few years ago, COVID was still a big thing, so it didn't really sit well. I just thought of it as hearsay, whatever.
Right.
I mean, we don't know what tomorrow is going to be at that point, but no, life has gone on. And recently in July, they were apparently, I guess, putting a sign on the station, because I think they have to do that when New Jersey Transit has a public hearing of, yeah, there's going to be a hearing regarding the proposed closure of the station. And a guy I know from when I used to use the Kingsland Station, when I used to take the train into New York, I was using it almost every day for about 6 years straight.
Right.
And, you know, there's a guy I knew from using the train from Kingsland Station. He posted in a Facebook group, a local forum in Lyndhurst. On Facebook, it's called Positively Lyndhurst. And he posted a picture of the sign for the hearing, the announcement, and he just said, hey, here's a chance for you to get your voices heard if you don't want to be crammed in like sardines on a train platform. Because his concern with it, and different people have different concerns. I mean, there's enough overlap of common concerns to reinforce such concerns, but there's also enough different ones that other people have to add more to the fight.
What are some of those? What are some of those concerns?
Well, his concern was he looked at the new station under construction and noticed the platform was not big enough to hold 2 train stations worth of people during rush hour. And that's a very good concern to point out, and a very good reason to keep Kingsland Station. And the ones I brought up, because when I first wrote the op-ed to the Observer, I was just focusing on the reasons to keep it open and why it's so useful. A lot of people still use it. One is it's easily accessible if you take the 76 bus there, as I did from North Arlington. And apparently a lot of people do that. There was a lot of people speaking up about that at that hearing. I had no idea what the hearing was going to be like until I went there. But a lot of people were speaking up about that. And that's an important one. And if you're taking the train from Kingsland, if you're taking the main line, there's a good chance that bus transfer is not the only transfer in your commute. If you're going to Midtown New York, you switch at Secaucus. If you're going to Lower Manhattan or somewhere else, in Jersey City, for example, you would switch to the light rail there. And there's also ferry service there. So if that's not the only transfer in your commute, you want that transfer to be as easy and simple as possible. So it's nice that there's a bus stop right in front of Kingsland Station. So that's a big reason to keep it. And the fact that when I did ride it every day, yeah, there are enough people to keep it necessary. It would not have crossed anyone's mind that, yeah, they don't need this station anymore, they should just close it down. Would not have crossed anyone's mind there were enough people using it. Same with the Lyndhurst station too, by the way.
Really?
So it just made no sense to close it down. And yes, when COVID hit, of course there was a huge dip in ridership, but it's been gaining back up though. In fact, New Jersey Transit, in their own words, said that ridership is at 80% of pre-COVID levels, with some peak trips, some peak periods at or exceeding pre-pandemic levels. So in some cases, there's even more people using New Jersey Transit than there were before COVID, especially during rush hour in some places. And whether or not that's the case with Kingsland or Lyndhurst specifically right now, it's going to be before we know it, because look what's going on everywhere. I know there's some people complaining about this, some people defending it, but either way, there's apartment buildings, brand new luxury apartment buildings, just popping up all over the place, everywhere, all over. I mean, you can't deny that.
No.
And Lyndhurst is one of the places that's happening. Same with North Arlington. In fact, there's one being built right across the street from Kingsland Station.
Wow.
Yeah, right across the street. So,
and that's got to be a selling point too, right? That look, all you got to do is cross the street. You're going into Midtown Manhattan. You'll be there in 15 minutes if you get it on a good day. So why would you take that away? Is that not a fair concern? Yeah.
Yeah, and a very common, I know I said this in the little clip that when I was on News 12 at the hearing, but yeah, a common target market for those developments are people who commute in and out of New York City, people who use mass transit. So it's a no-brainer to keep it because of that.
If you're just joining us, Andrew Miller, a resident of North Arlington, is here with us today. He has become, whether he realizes it or not, an advocate for keeping the Kingsland Station open in Lyndhurst. Andrew, at that meeting with New Jersey Transit, what did they say? Did they give you any rationale for why it was necessary, or they were even considering shutting down the station, or did they kind of avoid that for the fear of a backlash?
Well, they had their reasons for it, and they did a whole slideshow ahead of time. As mentioned in another op-ed that someone in Lyndhurst sent in, it's in last week's printed Observer. If anyone hasn't read it, I highly suggest you read it, from someone named Dom Colicchio. Yeah, he sent in an op-ed, and yeah, he mentioned that as well. Like at the beginning, they show like a little slideshow, starting out with, hey, we're New Jersey Transit, and they give all these stats, trying to say how great they are. And what's funny is how many train stations they have. And you're going to brag about how many train stations you have when this whole meeting is about you wanting to close one down.
Truly.
Yeah. But I knew those reasons before I went to the hearing, because I looked at another hearing notice of theirs where they mentioned it, whereas I didn't know that at the time I wrote my op-ed. And my op-ed you could find on the Observer's website. I know it's also it was posted on the Observer's Facebook page. When I found it there, it was on fire. I saw more reactions, shares, and comments than anything else posted that day. And there are a few fires in that comment thread that I had to put out with some facts, but that's another thing. But no, they did. So I just figured at that time, before that the reason was, why have two old, crummy-looking train stations when you could just have one nice, shiny new one? And and I thought that, all right, maybe they're just clearly out of touch with our community. A lot of these decisions are made by people who are out of touch with the communities they're supposed to serve. But the reasons they gave, and I totally called them out on it, other people called them out on it. One was insufficient parking. Yes, it's true that the parking lot at Kingsland Station is very small, very limited. But I consider that a non-issue, because the Lyndhurst train station does have sufficient parking, or as much parking as it possibly can. Like that is like the park and ride station to go to in the area.
Sure.
So if anyone wants to park and ride, they're more likely going to go there anyway.
Sure.
And people who use Kingsland Station, most of them, they either walk a short distance from home, it's in their neighborhood, or as with every train station, there are people who, they have a spouse or a family member, somebody who drops them off while they're on their way to their job type of thing, or picks them up on their way back from work. And that's every train station, you see that.
Yeah.
And also how I got there every morning, which is the 76 bus, people who take the local bus on Ridge Road that stops right in front of it. And I know when I used to take it, I don't know if they still do, but the Vermella apartments that are near Stop and Shop in Lyndhurst, I knew there's some kind of shuttle bus that would take people there and drop them off at Kingsland Station. And I think it also took people to and from Rutherford Station as well.
Got it.
So the parking is, that's not relevant. That's not an issue. And then I mentioned that at the meeting, and I told them to their faces, you don't know our community.
Yeah.
And then, oh, go on.
No, go ahead, Andrew. I'm sorry.
No. And then the other reason they use, and this is, and they probably thought they had us at this one, was it's not ADA compliant. ADA standing for Americans with Disabilities Act.
Right. And what do you think about that?
It doesn't have an elevator or ramps.
Right. What do you think about that?
Well, here's the thing about that. So, one, the new Lyndhurst station being built is going to be ADA compliant. It's going to have elevators. It's going to, so that's going to be provided at the new Lyndhurst station. And New Jersey Transit already has a paratransit service called Access Link. I see their vehicles on the road all the time, and that's a service for those in need to go to anywhere in the service area, and that would include train stations that are handicapped accessible. So that's already taken care of. And I'm all about making as many train stations as possible ADA compliant. I really am. And if you were to look at a map of New Jersey Transit's rail system, where it has all the stations, all the lines, it has any station that is handicapped accessible, it has that logo next to it. So that way you know. So I'd say like maybe as of right now, almost half of them are, which means a little more than half of them are not.
Right.
So if that's a reason to close down a train station, are you going to close down most of the system? That would be insane.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm all about making as many as possible handicapped accessible. I'm all for that. And if there are any stations that for some reason they just can't, still keep that station. Because especially with Lyndhurst, where we have these two stations that aren't that far from each other, people who need that kind of service, keeping Kingsland in service means that those who benefit from using the ADA accessible station at Lyndhurst, one, that have a less crowded than necessary experience, and two, not all disabilities are visible. Like there are people who it could be painful for them to stand or walk even. And people in the morning, they get on the train, they'll dart for a seat, and then they'll like pretend they're sleeping so people don't bother them or whatever the case is. Yeah, it's not gonna cross their mind to give up their seat for somebody who doesn't appear disabled to them. So having Kingsland in service, it allows people at Lyndhurst a shot at getting a seat on the train before the whole crowd at Kingsland has a chance on getting on.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and since they're talking about ADA, and they like to use the word equity as well, that means we have to look at all disabilities, many of which have nothing to do with mobility, nothing to do with one's ability to climb stairs or not. And there are a lot of people who have all kinds of other disabilities or conditions where they may not be allowed to drive a car, or whatever the case is, they still need as many transportation options as possible. So taking away a train station or any transit option is doing them a disservice.
Right.
So between making ADA compliant train stations more crowded and hectic and reducing options for people who have other types of disabilities, that taking away a train station or any transit option is doing a huge disservice to the people that ADA is supposed to protect. So that's why that argument fell flat with everybody.
Absolutely. If you're just joining us, Andrew Miller of North Arlington is here with us. We're talking about the Kingsland Station in Lyndhurst. There are going to be people, though, that look at this and say, Andrew, come on. The Lyndhurst Station is, by the time the train gets moving, it's got to stop when it gets to Kingsland if you're heading into the city. What do you say to the people who say, look, this thing is dilapidated, it's falling apart, it's in need of renovation. Why the hell do we need this? Why can't we just live with one? What are you going to say? What would you say to those people? And there are some of them out there who would make that argument. Yeah, what would you say to the people making that argument?
Well, one, as far as people who do take the 76 bus to transfer, that the walk from Ridge Road to the Lyndhurst Station, if they're coming home, they get off at Lyndhurst Station and they got to make that walk to Ridge Road. there's a chance that they could miss a bus that they easily could have gotten if they got off at Kingsland Station.
Right.
And that's going to add more time to their commute home. That's going to interfere with time they're spending with their family, or it could infringe on other obligations they may have going on after work.
Sure.
And also, a lot of longtime Lyndhurst residents at the hearing brought this up. I mean, things that I would not have thought to bring up, but there are a lot of logistical concerns too regarding the location of Lyndhurst train station and how, having all these cars going to and from there, picking people up, dropping people off, there's already enough of it. And then, because some people, they drop their kids off or whoever off at the train station to use it. And they're talking about how that could cause a lot of problems there. So there are some people at the hearing that went into detail on that, like things I would not have thought of because, I'm in that area once in a while, but I don't live there, so I don't see everything all the time like people who've lived in Lyndhurst their whole life do. So there are concerns with that as well. And again, just congestion, population density. As that one guy pointed out, who I knew from riding the train, is that the platform they're building at Lyndhurst isn't even big enough to accommodate 2 train stations worth of people during rush hour. And I know some people thought, like, well, if you take one stop away, that means I may be able to get into Secaucus or Hoboken 3 minutes earlier. Oh, whoop-de-doo, 3 minutes. Well, if it's going to be just as many people using that one station, 2 train stations worth, then it's going to take more time for the train to board and for the train to let people off, to let everyone off anyway. So, that 3 whopping minutes, it wouldn't even be that. Because all that extra time is going to be spent having more people get on at that one stop and more people getting off at that one stop.
Well, what if they were to say, all right, we're going to reroute the 76 bus, and instead of continuing along on Ridge Road, we'll make that left turn onto New York Avenue, and we'll bring you down over there and let you off at the station. Would that be helpful? Or is that just going to add to what you had mentioned before about it being overcrowded at the Lyndhurst station and things of that nature? What about that possibility?
Yes, it could add to more being overcrowded there, and it's more turns that the bus has to make, which means more traffic stops and such. And that's a bus line that connects Newark to Hackensack.
Right.
So, there may be more opposition against that than for it, because now you're roping every community between Newark and Hackensack into this.
Right.
So that's a whole other thing. But I also remember there were other people at the meeting who mentioned how that's not even possible, probably because something to do with like the roads that are around there and the bridge there, like if there's even room for it and if it could even be accommodated, right? So there are people who brought up concerns about that as well.
Gotcha. Robert James Russo is the mayor of Lyndhurst, and he wrote a piece to the residents of Lyndhurst that we published today, so you probably haven't even seen it yet. But he said in his letter to the residents that the mayor and the commissioners are going to do everything in their power to help businesses that would be affected by this. And, the one that comes to my mind immediately is the Lyndhurst pastry shop, because it's so close to where Kingsland is. What about the businesses? This is really going to hurt a lot of businesses in that area, isn't it? Or is that
Big time.
Okay, so talk a little bit about that, would you, Andrew?
Yeah, so from my own experience, when I use the train station out of there every morning, the Lyndhurst pastry shop, almost everyone using that train station was in and out of there grabbing coffee every morning.
Right.
And once in a while I'd go in there and sometimes get like a little pastry as a nice healthy breakfast there, and a Mountain Dew from the soda machine they have there. But no, so without that station, it's going to be a huge hit to them, especially during their morning hours. And would they even find it worth it to be open in the morning at that point? And he mentioned businesses around that area. Yes, even at the hearing, there were some local business owners there. There's somebody who had a business on Ridge Road, like right near there, and they said, when they decided to set up business there, that train station and its commuters were a key factor in their decision on where to set up shop.
Right.
And it's going to be a huge hit to them. So if the people who use Kingsland Station make that much of a difference to somebody's business that's right by it, then that means there are enough people who use Kingsland Station to make Kingsland Station necessary.
That's right.
Otherwise, if like not many people are using it, then yeah, it wouldn't be a significant impact to any businesses if that was the case. But no, it would be a significant impact. Therefore, obviously, there are enough people using that station to make it necessary.
Right. On our way out here, we never know who's going to watch videos like this, but it's always possible, since New Jersey Transit is the topic, that somebody higher up from New Jersey Transit could see this. So let's presume right now we have an audience with the CEO or the president of New Jersey Transit. What does Andrew Miller say to this person about the closure? What do you want to see them do ultimately?
What I want to see them do ultimately is keep it as a stop on the main line. If you're not able to upgrade it anytime soon, the current condition has not deterred a lot of people from using Kingsland Station. So enough people use it to keep it necessary. And when it comes to the ongoing residential development going on all around the area, including across the street, but just the area in general, all over Lyndhurst, North Arlington, surrounding towns, demand is going to go back up. Meaning, sooner or later, if you do close that station down, it's easy to close it down, but there's going to be demand at some point to reopen it. And having to do that is going to be more complicated and more expensive. And if they do like to say, hey, there's budget problems with New Jersey Transit, well, the reasons they use for wanting to close it down are proof that Kingsland Station has nothing to do with any financial problems New Jersey Transit has.
Exactly.
So don't take it out on us. It's not Kingsland Station's fault. It's not the fault of people who use Kingsland Station. So if you want to upgrade it, do anything you can to it, yeah, that's welcome. Everybody welcomes that. If there's no way that can happen, again, it's still a very necessary stop, because it'll, as I mentioned before when we were talking about Americans with Disabilities Act and the elevators and everything going on at the new Lyndhurst station, there are people who would benefit from having a shot at getting a seat on the train before a whole train station's worth of people have a chance to get on. So that's something to think about. So as I mentioned earlier, the people that ADA is supposed to help, those are the people who are going to be hurt the most by this, because people who have other disabilities that have nothing to do with walking have less transit options. So that's going to be a disservice to them. And it's just a disservice to everybody in general. Absolutely. And another thing that was mentioned was something about, and I still have it here, what they gave to us at the hearing, the slideshow they showed. Yeah, they said drainage issues. Infrastructure is deteriorating. Drainage issues, and they show like a picture of this old cement wall that's by it. And if that really is an issue, that's something that needs to be fixed whether or not you close this station. I know toward the end of the hearing, there was one person who spoke. I thought he sounded defeatist at first, because he's like, you guys are going to close it anyway. And I'm like, no, man, we got to fight for this. But he did raise a point that these drainage issues would affect the train tracks. So that's something that would have to be fixed whether or not you keep the station in place anyway. But there were a lot of people speaking out at this hearing. I had no idea what it was going to be like, so I had a 3-minute speech. It was all crammed into 3 minutes, so I went through it really fast. And there was a stenographer there. At the end of it, I handed him my little script there, saying, hey,
good move.
In case I was going too fast, here you go for the record.
Right.
And all kinds of people spoke, from lifelong Lyndhurst residents and even newer Lyndhurst residents who, Kingsland Station was one of the reasons they moved where they moved.
Right.
And then people from neighboring towns who also use the station, and a lot about the bus, a lot about logistic concerns regarding the new location. How, yeah, see, neither option is for no one option is for everybody. The new Lyndhurst station won't be for everybody. Kingsland's not for everybody. The bus isn't for everybody. It's why we have all these options.
Exactly.
And so all kinds of people spoke. It was great. There was one commissioner from Lyndhurst who spoke out there. I think his name's John Montillo. So
Yes,
he was
John
there
Tyler.
looking out. I mean, I don't know the people in Lyndhurst local government as much as people in Lyndhurst would, but if you're from Lyndhurst, you're watching this. Commissioner John Montillo, he was there going to bat. He was looking out for you. So I
He's
just
a good
want you
guy.
all to know that.
Yeah,
Oh, he
John's
is.
a
You
good
know,
guy.
that's good.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, he's a good
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, I met him before it all started. He seemed like a nice guy. That's good. And I also did write to my state representatives about this. Senator Sarlo did get back to me saying, and
Oh,
this was before the hearing, yeah, he got back to me saying he has his staff contacting Department of Transportation and New Jersey Transit, and I'd like to know how that's going. And then somebody from Assemblyman Gary Shayer's office got back to me saying he knows about the hearing, he's interested in the evening one. Well, if he attended, I mean, maybe he attended, maybe he didn't, but if he did attend, he must have kept a low profile. And I still did not hear back from Clinton Calabrese. I mean, hopefully he's on vacation, and that's the case because it's the time of year people go on vacation. But yeah, if he gets back, that would be great because I believe he's on the transportation committee. So you think if anyone would get back to me, it'd be
it would be
him.
him. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Well, listen, you have your finger on the pulse of this better than anybody that I know. So as this continues to progress, can we do this again? We'll regroup again when things change, and we'll talk about it. Talk about it some more. Would you do that?
Oh, yes, I definitely would anytime. And I
Good.
also do have an online petition going on as well.
Where can you find that for people who may be watching?
All right, so it would be change.org/keep Kingsland Station. There's also a QR code.
Good.
All right. Yeah, I was handing these out after the hearing.
Okay.
And before the hearing, there's a train that arrived at 5:30 at Kingsland Station. And I had no idea how it was going to go because I know people are in a hurry to go home. But
Sure.
when I was outside the station handing them out, people were down with it. They're like excited about it. People were even lining up for it.
Wow.
Like if you saw me from across the street, you would have thought I was handing out $1 million checks. Yeah.
That's great. Well, that's
So I'm
good.
definitely going to be going back during a morning rush hour.
Okay,
Rush.
good. All right. Well, we'll get together again when things get a little bit more clear. And in the meantime, I can't thank you enough for doing this. I'm so glad I met you like a year or so ago, however long it was, when you first wrote your first op-ed, and I'm very grateful that you've been so supportive of us over the years, and I hope we can do the same for you too. Thank you, Andrew.
Oh, definitely. And thank you again. The word needs to get out.
Thanks. All right, everybody. We'll see you soon. Okay. Take care.
All right.